Good afternoon. We're coming to you from the Church of the Messiah in Nashville, Tennessee. And my name is Delores Butler. And this is a new segment that we're starting here in the life of the Church of the Messiah. Today is the day that we're celebrating our pastor's 15-year anniversary here at the church. So we just want to kind of talk to him about what this 15 years has meant to him and kind of where he sees the church going in the next 15 years. So we're just going to let him talk about it and open his heart up about the Church of the Messiah and his ministry here.
15 years here at Church of the Messiah. Let's see. It's been a process. The first thing I can think of is the process. Never pastored before when I've taken on this assignment. My first thing that comes to my mind is growing up. It forced me to grow up. It forced me to stand on what I was saying, what I was reading. It forced me to be the man of God that people were calling me. A lot of times, as a man and even as a pastor, you might desire something, but until you actually walk in it, you don't really know the magnitude of what it means. And so the first phase of my ministry was me really learning how to transition from someone who was walking around in his father's clothes and to recognize there was a mantle on my life as well and an assignment. And also part of that process included a period of isolation. What I mean by that is my perception of what would take place once I announce or once I accept this calling into the ministry, I thought that that it would be this great fellowship of other pastors and brothers and stuff like that initially, and so I was looking for that validation from other pastors and stuff like that didn't come, and so I began to think something was wrong with me, or something was wrong with them. But then God had to reveal to me. He said, "This thing is from me." He says, and the reason why it came from Him that way, He says, it's not that it's something wrong with you or something's wrong with them, but the short season of isolation that I have you in is so that the work that I want you to do will not look like where you came from, and it won't look like something else. So you won't have to model it, because what was needed here is something that was a new work or a fresh work, not only for me but for the people that were here. So that was the first phase of it. So that growing process was then there. Okay. And then the other part was the suffering part, the struggling within my own flesh, the sicknesses that I was going through, as well as my late wife, the sickness that she was going through. All this was in the initial years of pastoring. And so how do I do that at the same time? Deal with home and deal with physical thing. And so it was a process. Again, I called it suffering, God called it preparing. And so in that process, I learned how to trust God and learned how that not to rely on my own power or my strength, because I didn't have any. But he proved Himself faithful in that word to me. And then as I saw the word come forth from me to the people of God, I saw the beginnings of transformation in the lives of people. And so I began to see the Messiah not as those people, but our people, the people of God, and the necessity for this ministry became more and more evident, because what others have walked away from, God steps to, and He stepped to us, and He's challenged us to do something that we never did before. And part of that was not only just a physical building, but actually there was a construction of our lives. In this process, God put our lives under construction, and He's still renovating. He's still doing those things, but those are the things I've seen. And so, great transition in 15 years. I've seen a lot of things. Seen a lot of people come. I've seen a lot of people go. But I think one thing that stayed consistent: the Word of God remained the same.
I think that's excellent. Would you share with our audience maybe a little bit about, I call it the population of your congregation? What's the mix of your congregation here?
I mean, what a good question, because though we're in a community, our congregation is partially from the community, but it's also, we have a tendency, we have a gift to draw people outside of this community. So, that's the power of the gospel going forth. Evidence of the word is that when it affects all men. So we have people from Brentwood, from Bellevue, from Franklin, from Spring Hill, from Goodlettsville, and right here from South Nashville. And the reason I say that's a really good question, because it is it's in the assembly of believers where you begin to see the identity or the fingerprint of what that church is. And it fits right into the vision, because our vision that stays always in the forefront of my mind is to spread the good news of the kingdom throughout the world, and then equip the believers to live in it. So our congregation is made up for people from all over the Nashville area and some of the surrounding areas. And now that we have our own network, COTMnetwork.com, we have people that is tuning in from all over the world, from far as away as Germany that I've seen, and Florida, and California, and Milwaukee, and so we have people from all over that is catching wind of what's going on at COTM, and so that's exciting. So, and the other part about it, we're crossing racial boundaries. We're no longer considered. I don't consider we're majority African American. We're not considered an African American church or quote unquote a black church. Because the word of God, the gospel that goes forth here, is a gospel that can be preached anywhere, whether it's a Hispanic church, a Anglo-Saxon church, or a black church. The gospel stays the same.
Amen.
And that's what I pride myself on.
Amen. So you stay strictly with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. That's my charge. That's my charge. I'm not charged to, I know a lot of times the pressures of an inner city pastors where there's so many social issues, there's a lot of pressure to be social. There's a lot of pressures to get into the political realm, but that's not my calling. God had people for those. Some pastors are well qualified and very good at that, but that's not my strong suit. Though I will address a social issue, I was called to preach the gospel, and if I leave off preaching the gospel and do something else, God's told me, then my work is left undone. Because the gospel is still the answer to everything. And I believe that.
Right.
It's not popular, but I believe that.
All right.
Yeah.
I believe that also. If there's one thing, and we're going to end with this in this segment, if there's one thing you would like for our viewers to know about the Church of Messiah, about how they can be involved, even though they might be millions of miles away, how they can be involved here with the Church of Messiah. What are some things they can do, and what do you want them to know?
The first thing I want to know, there's no distance in prayer. You can be 1,000 miles away, but if you would unite with us and pray for our church specifically, and the vision of this house, and the ministry of this house, and the people that we minister to on a regular basis, because in this community, you might not know it, but this is a community that the enemy has had a strong hold on for a long time. And we're determined, and we're here to break that stronghold and to change the environment, change the atmosphere, change the culture of this community through the gospel of Christ. So if we had people that would unite with us and stand with us in prayer about the transformation of this community, that it would not only affect and spread through this community, but throughout the city, throughout the state, and again, following the vision throughout the world, then that's the one thing I would ask people to do, is that they would pray with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate this time that Pastor Williams has spent with us. And we thank you. We'll have another segment some other time. Thanks.
Thank you.